Good, good. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Allie Robbins. I'm a career education specialist at Texas Career Engagement. Just a little about me. I graduated from the University of Georgia, where I studied human development and family science, and then I worked in college advising with the college. Hello? Am I back? Can you hear me? Okay, with the College Advising Corps. Did anybody have College Advising Corps advisors at their high school? Hey, awesome. And now I'm here at TCE, so I'm definitely still getting adjusted to being here in Texas and how hot it is, but I'm excited to be here with all of you today. There's too many people to do names, so raise your hand if you're a first-year student, just so I can see that. Oh, welcome, wow. Okay, any second year? A few, hey guys, welcome back. Third-year students? Hey, anybody there fourth year going into their last year? Yes, hi, welcome. Okay, great. So it's great to get to know everybody better. I also wanted to introduce our office. Has anyone seen Texas Career Engagement stuff online, seen stuff by the office? It's okay if you haven't yet. A little bit? Okay, cool. So we're another career services office on campus. You can always go to your college or school career center, and they'll be able to help you, and we can provide support as well. We have lots of different appointment types where you can do career and major exploration. You can take a career assessment to see how your skills and experiences match with different jobs, job and internship searching, working on resumes and cover letters, and events, all kinds of stuff. We also do a lot of interdisciplinary work, so if you're interested in a career outside your major or combining majors, we can do that, and specialized resources for LGBTQ students, veterans, undocumented students, so lots of cool stuff available there. We definitely talk with students about resumes a lot. That's gonna be our focus today. So our learning objectives are first for you to be able to evaluate a good resume versus a bad resume. Create 2 or 3 bullet points using a bullet point formula. I think that's a good starting place for everyone. And then make 3 headings that you can use on your next resume draft. I know resumes are not always the most exciting topic, but I hope this gives you stuff you can apply directly to what you're doing and get ready to have a resume for the fall. But I do want to start out by seeing what you already know. So if you have a phone or a laptop and you can go to kahoot.it, we're gonna start with a Kahoot today. Okay, I think we're all in now. Everybody good? All right, let's get started. So the first question is just how you're feeling about resumes in general. So it'll be a word cloud question, and then we'll get into the competition part, obviously. So what feeling comes to mind when you think about resumes? Try to just type one word, you know, good, bad, confused, anything like that. Okay, 10 more seconds on that one. If you haven't gotten your word in, go ahead and click. Oh, awesome. So let's see what some people had in common. Let's look at the big words. Professional. Carlos. Some people feeling good, some people feeling nervous, confused. I think all of these are totally common feelings to have, and hopefully we can help with some of those today. I don't know about the Carlos one, but we'll just see. That's totally fine. Okay, let's do the next question. What is the purpose of a resume? Ooh, that's tricky. What is it? Ooh, nice. So it looks like a lot of you got that one. We'll definitely talk more about that today. All right, let's go to the next question. On average, how long do employers look at your resume? It is not that long. Nice, 12 seconds. So we'll definitely want to talk about getting everything organized, how employers expect it to be. Let's go to the next question. Jeffrey, ooh, that was a change. All right, which of these potential section titles are acceptable for a resume? Yeah, great job. You guys saw that all are acceptable. That's great. Okay, what is the acceptable content font size range? So not your name on the top, but all the other information on your resume. What size should that be? Nice, that was a tricky one. Okay, so 10 players just got 4 in a row. That's awesome. Okay, this is a multi-select. You can pick more than one answer for this. Select all the required sections on a resume, so the things you definitely want to have. Nice! You got a lot of those right too. Ooh. Okay, how do you order experiences in an individual resume section? So what's the order going to be? Oh, nice! Reverse chronological order. That's correct. Most recent thing at the top. All right. Okay, true or false? Margins should be no smaller than ½ an inch. Nice, a lot of you got that one right. Okay, only a couple questions left. Select the bullet point that isn't consistent with the others. So take your time to read this. Which one is different? Which one's missing some information maybe? Oh, and they're also over there, y'all, if you can't see them. Nice. So that bullet point doesn't have a number like the other one does, and we'll talk about including those when you can. All right, coming up on question 10, what is the best format to submit your resume in? What kind of file? And here's a clue. Think about it, you don't want it to get messed up when someone else opens it on a different computer. Nice, PDF, that's right. Okay, let's see the winners. Drum roll, everybody. Hannah, woo! Aaron, where's Aaron? 4th and 5th place. Awesome. Thank you guys for playing that game with me. So I know there were some questions it seems like most of you felt really comfortable with, but also some things you don't know yet, and that's totally fine. A lot of students don't start talking about resumes in high school. I know I didn't. With a lot of first-year students here, that's common. So let's get started with just the basic stuff. A resume is a professional document that summarizes your education, experience, and skills for a specific job position. The purpose of your resume is to get an interview. You want to be invited to that next step so you can tell the employer all the other great things that you couldn't fit on your resume. And your resumes are subjective and they should be representative of you. Every person you show your resume to is going to have feedback. It's probably all going to be different. So you want to maintain like the professionalism of the document, but you ultimately get to decide what's on there and what's not on there. So we can talk more about what they look like as well. Those resume guidelines, we hit some of these in Kahoot. So your resume should be 1 to 2 pages, 11 to 12 size font usually, because you don't have a lot of room to explain all the great things that you've done. 1/2 inch to 1 inch margins is normal, and you want it to be really organized and have consistent formatting throughout because employers don't always spend that long on the first glance of your resume, so you want the information to be where they expect it. You'll use bullet points and not paragraphs. We'll totally talk about those. And you want to submit as a PDF, so if you're using one version of Word and they have another one, it doesn't get messed up when they open it on their computer. We'll also talk about order more. That reverse chronological means the most recent thing at the top. That is a little weird, but it's just one of those weird resume rules that you'll know, you'll use for resumes, and you don't have to use for anything else. So that's a little bit what they look like. Let's talk about what you can put on your resume. Does anyone just want to yell out something that could be on your resume? Experience, that's totally right, thank you. Education, yeah, that's great. Your name, that's really important, great. Your phone number, contact information, that's awesome. Anything else? Location, yeah, you can put a city and address on sometimes, that's great. Education, totally, that you go to the University of Texas, that's a great thing to show off on your resume. Your title? Yeah, degree or title, of course, the program you're studying is great. So this is a big list, some of these things y'all pointed out, but everything really can count. Did you volunteer? Are you in a student organization? Are you taking coursework relevant to the job? Are you doing a study abroad, an internship? Anything like that can be included on your resume, and you really want to think about transferable skills. So I think sometimes students feel like, I haven't had an internship in my major yet, but I've had a part-time job. Does that count? And it absolutely does. Or if you've done a project in class with other classmates, the skills you gain like communication, time management, organization, those can go to any job, even if it's totally different in the one you're applying for. And this has a great note about if you're like, I had a job, but I don't know what to say. Look at the job description when you applied. Those are probably the things you did. You can use those on your resume. So that was a lot of information. I do want to talk a little bit more about it. Any questions? We feeling okay? One person gave me a thumbs up. Awesome, 2. Okay, great, thanks. So that's a lot of great things you can put on your resume, but how do you organize it? That's really important. You can use headings to kind of show off your most relevant experience for a job you're applying for. Are you guys okay? Do you have a question? No? Okay. So I did want to show you, this is a cool thing on the TCE website, Texas Career Engagement, this resume guide. So it has sample resumes you can look at. This is a list of, of some section headings that you might have. And I'll make sure this link gets sent over so y'all don't have to try to write it down right now. But you can see like this student used headings to separate their experience between public relations experience and professional sales experience. So you might have community service experience, volunteer experience, customer service experience, all kinds of different headings on your resume. So as we're talking about things, I would keep that in mind. Like, do you have campus involvement you would want to include, volunteering, anything like that? And we'll kind of talk through some common sections and sections everyone should have as well. So like someone else pointed out, having your name on your resume, that's really important. Your contact information, where you go to school, and what you're studying. And you always want to spell your degree name out all the way. Sometimes your resume is read by a computer instead of a person first, and so you want them to know what you're studying. Cool. And then another section can be community, volunteer, and co-curricular things. So this could be if you're in a campus club, if you do something in the community, anything like that can be included. There are some great bullet points on here. We'll talk more about those in a minute. So some more sections you could have is work experience. So this could be where you put public relations experience, or if you had an internship, a job, anything like that could go here. And this gives an example of how the student separated the name of the company and their title. And then lastly on here is honors, accomplishments, and skills. So if you won a scholarship, if you won an award, this is a great place to include that. And if you have any technical skills, so that could be knowing how to use something on the computer. I know some students are familiar with like Python, for example, or if you learned a language, French, American Sign Language, you could include that on here. Sometimes students want to include something like leadership skills in this section, and leadership's an excellent skill, but it doesn't have context here. If I read in the skills section that you speak French, I totally know what that means. But if I read that you're a good leader, I don't know how. But if you write in a bullet point that you've demonstrated leadership skills by leading an on-campus event with 300 students, I learned more about how you've used that skill and how you could use it with me. So that was a lot of information, but I think the thing that students most often have questions about is writing those bullet points to describe their experience. So we're totally gonna talk more about that next. When you're writing a bullet point to describe your experience, you might write like 3 or 5, depending on how much room you have. You always wanna start with an action verb. So that could be communicated, demonstrated, led, anything like that can go there. There's a big list on the guide we looked at before. And then you'll want to say, how did you do that action verb that you just put? So were you working with other people? Were you supervising students at a camp? Were you working in a restaurant? You can do that there. And be really descriptive and specific so employers know what you were doing in that job, because you're the only one that's had it. They need you to tell them. And then the last part, that's usually the hardest, is why did you do that? Like, why does that matter? What was the purpose of you doing that task? So all 3 of those together can help you write a great bullet point. You can use it throughout your resume. And like we saw in the example, anytime you can use a number is great. So were you working on a team with 10 people or 100? That's different skills. Were you doing this weekly or monthly? Did you increase Instagram followers by 15% or 50%? That just shows them more of what you were doing. So I do want to put these into practice. So is everybody feeling good about the formula? We're going to do an activity, but it's just for fun, no grades or anything. We feel good? All right. So if you want to turn to the person next to you, you can make notes on your phone, on your computer, write them down, whatever. I have a couple sample bullet points up here. So based on what we just talked about, action verbs, descriptive phrases, and numbers, how would you change one of these bullet points? And that resume guide we just looked at, the bit.ly, is down there. So if you type that in on your phone or on your computer, you can see it. But talk to your neighbors. How would you change it knowing we don't know what this experience was like, so you can make up the details? And I'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. Go ahead. Well, actually, it's quiet now, so that's fine. We can wrap that up. So I was able to talk to some people on this side. It sounds like they were thinking a lot about being more specific, maybe bumping up those action verbs. They're not bad, but how can they be improved? Adding some details like numbers or the point of some activities. Worked with 16 staff counselors, that's great. What did you do? Like, why is that valuable to an employer? Does anybody have anything they wanted to share or any questions about this? It's okay if you don't. Cool. So here are some examples of ways that it could be improved. So like I was just saying, those strong action verbs, how can you bump those up? You can always look at the list that's on our website, or you can look at the job description to match with that. You can see in the orange where they added those numbers. So they worked with 16 kids. They were communicating weekly with parents, and they added some details to staff. And then all of that dark blue is those descriptive words and phrases that add information. It's hard to write these when you didn't have the job, so I know you all were just having to make things up. But I think this is a great example of how you can take a really good starting place and add those details, bump things up to really show off your skills to an employer. So I know we're gonna do a little bit more writing, but because you guys just had that practice, I encourage you to turn to the same person next to you, someone else if you want, and think about something that you've done. Have you had something else here at UT? Did you do something in high school that you want to include on your resume? And try to write a bullet point or two about that experience, keeping in mind starting with an action verb, being descriptive, and adding numbers if you can do that. So I'll give you guys a few more minutes to try that for yourself, something that you've actually done. Okay, I want to get ready to wrap this one up too. Anybody have any questions, anything they thought about they wanted to share with the group? Not right now? I hope that was really helpful, and obviously these bullet points don't have to be perfect. You'll be getting feedback on your resume, forever. So this is a great place to start. Get some help from your friends, maybe come see our office or your school career center to continue to make changes. So we've talked about a lot of stuff today. I hope you feel like you learned some things, you got some practical things out of it. I did want to hit a quick high point review. When you're working on your resume, you always want to follow those resume guidelines for organization to make sure employers see all the great things that you've done. You want to highlight your transferable skills because everything you've done counts. All of you are students at UT. That means you're working really hard, you're doing your best, and you definitely want to show all of that off. You can use the bullet point formula, to describe your experience. That makes it easy if you're writing for all of them in the same way. Pick relevant sections for your experience based on what you've done. And don't forget to go on the TCE website for resources. You can copy that bit.ly down if you want to go to our website. It's Texas Career Engagement, and I'll also send it over so you guys can look at it after the event today. But I think that's the last slide. So just a quick reminder, we are in the Flan Academic Center. You can come over for drop-ins. We're starting those in the fall, so you don't need an appointment. Just bring your resume, your cover letter that you're working on. You can sit with someone for 10 or 15 minutes and get some feedback. You can also go on your Handshake account and click Career Center to schedule an appointment with our office to talk about how to search for jobs and internships, more stuff on your resume, what kind of career you should even have, all kinds of stuff, and we'd love to see you there. But that is it for me. Thank you all so much. This is a quick survey you can scan on Qualtrics just to tell me what you thought of the presentation, what we could do for changes next time. But that's all for me. Thank you all so much for being here.
Just sitting here timing like a Rolex watch. I figure by now y'all realize that hip hop and rap won't stop. Putting it together like a racing track.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. So it's about 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna get started. But before I get started, first I wanna say thank you guys for being the most awesome students ever. You gave Allie such an amazing participation and energy, so I hope I can keep it up with interviewing. So my name is Tylissa Frazier, and I'm a career counselor at Texas Career Engagement. A little bit about me, I have a very diverse background. I got my undergrad degree at Texas A&M Central Texas. I know, I'm sorry. Now, in my defense, I was military. I was active duty Army for 4 years. And after I did the Army, that's when I went ahead to A&M, I know. And then after there, I got my master's from UMHB in mental health counseling. From there, I did a little bit of social work, I taught, I did nonprofit, and now I'm here at the best university ever. Woo! So today I had the opportunity to talk to you about interviewing. I have a lot of experience in interview from both sides. So I have been the interview hiring committee, and I've been on both sides. So I hope today some of my knowledge will pass on to you to make you successful in the future. So learning objectives, I like to call them goals. So the goals of our presentation is to develop an understanding about confidence. I don't know about you guys, but it is hard going through an interview. So we want to talk about how confidence plays into the interview process. And then we want to talk about the questions, particularly behavior interviewing questions. And then we're going to talk about a strategy that might help you with behavior interview questions. So, starting out with confidence. Why is confidence important during the interview process? Somebody want to shout out why they think it's important?
It sets the tone.
Yes, it sets the tone. Anybody else have anything you want to add? You need it for the job, yes.
If you don't believe in yourself, why would they interview you?
Presentation and...
If you don't believe in yourself, why would they interview you?
Exactly. If you don't believe in yourself, why will the interview believe in you? So I want to set a scenario for you. So you are the hiring manager. You're in charge of hiring someone for your team. You get 2 applicants. They both have amazing resumes. They probably sat through Allie's Kahoot. That's why their resumes are so good. And you're looking through the resumes that have similar background, so you offer them both for interview. You have applicant A. Applicant A has great tone. He or she has good eye contact, and they just ooze confidence. But then you have applicant B. They're kind of nervous, they're stumbling over their words, their eye movement is kind of not consistent with positive eye contact. So who do you think you would feel confident with hiring to put on your team? A, yes, exactly. So that is why confidence is important during the interview process. So all these things we were just kind of talking about: positive eye contact, good posture, making sure you're sitting up properly, having your hands rest in your lap, delivery of speech, making sure you're not going too fast, going too slow, making sure you're not mumbling or whispering. The way you dress. The way you dress can display confidence. That's making sure that you're properly groomed, your hair is groomed, you're clean, you're showered, you put deodorant on, lotion on, all those good things your parents taught you about when you were growing up. And again, it's just your overall presence, how you walk into a room, how you shake someone's hand. Your interview is looking at the person and they're wanting their best impression, so making sure that you're demonstrating that. So before I go to that slide, what I want to say is it's really good to create a game plan. So kind of thinking about what strategies and things that you can do to kind of calm your nerves. I also want to normalize the fact that it is totally normal to be nervous. It is totally normal to have some anxiety going into an interview. So I'm hoping that some of these strategies that we talk about today will kind of help with that process. So when you're looking at creating a game plan, I wanted to provide you with a few examples or strategies or coping mechanisms that might help you through this process. So first and foremost, I think it's very important to make sure that you're getting a good night's sleep, about 7 to 8 hours of sleep the night before the interview. Some people do visualization. What that means is they kind of go into a quiet room and they close their eyes and they're visualizing what success looks like in an interview. So they're seeing themselves mastering their interview process. Another one is exercise. Some people kind of get in the zone by running, jogging, going to the gym, lifting weights. If that's something you do, that might help you distract you and calm your nerves. My favorite one is the Superman pose. I kind of like to combine this with positive words of affirmation. So I'll usually stand in front of a mirror, I'll kind of do this, and I'll say, I'm awesome, I deserve this, I got this. And then another one is deep breathing. So some people breathe, and they do that deep breath where they kind of hold their breath, count to 3, and let it out. That can kind of reduce your heart rate and kind of get you back in the jam of acing the interview. So what I want you to do is grab a partner, someone beside you, someone behind you, and I want you to think about 2 or 3 things that you can do the day before the interview, the day of the interview, and right after the interview. What are some things that can help you calm down? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to talk in a group, a couple of you guys together, and come up with a plan. Okay, I'm ready, I'm back. Did everyone create a game plan? Does everyone have a couple strategies that they want to use in the future when they're having an interview? Yes, you want to share?
Look up who your recruiter is before you meet them.
You said, okay, look them up before you meet them. Awesome. You had your hand raised too, right?
There's like a breathing technique you can do to calm yourself down. Just breathe for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, and breathe out for 8. It's like a proven thing that reduces your heart rate. So.
Yes. Awesome.
Go through practice questions with someone else that can offer you constructive criticism or feedback.
Yes.
I would
So you're gonna have a spa day.
Yeah, like a good little self-care day. Like
Self-care.
Get enough sleep, everything. Like just the day before, calm your nerves. Rather than like showing up without a haircut and stuff like that. 'Cause you don't want to show up looking like you just came out of the wild.
Yeah, I got you. In the back, I definitely want to get to you. Yes. You said review some basic interview questions? Yeah, so practicing your responses so you're kind of not rambling and being a little bit more concise with your answers. Awesome. Last one.
Send a thank you note or email the day after.
Yes. Oh, you guys are stealing all my good stuff. But I mean, that's good. That's good. That's good. Yes, you definitely want to send a thank you letter. So we kind of talked about the interview and why confidence is important and some things that we can do to kind of bring our nerves down. So now we're going to kind of just jump into the interview process. And I'm just curious, when do you think the interview process actually starts? Hold on. What'd you say? The first email they send you. Correct. The interview process starts the first email they send you. It's very important to make sure that once you accept it, well, actually before you accept it, you make sure that the date does not conflict with your calendar, making sure you don't have any classes or anything that coincides with that where you would have to go back and cancel. You want to make sure that once you accept it, you're checking your emails regularly just in case something changes. But correct, it starts at the interview. It starts the day that you accept the interview. So I want to kind of talk about 3 R's that will kind of help you get ready for the interview. The first R is reflect. I like to think of that as like thinking about why did you apply for this job? Each of your resumes each job that you apply to, your resume should be tailored. So you put a lot of work into applying for this job or this internship. What stood out about this? What made you apply for it? What do you want to get out of this experience? How does this coincide with your career goals, long-term and short-term? What are some of your strengths? What are some of your areas of growth? Think about those things. Do some self-reflection. Someone said research. You want to do your research. Interviewers want to know that you want to work for this company and that you have done your research. So you want to look at the company's website, but you also might want to check the news to see what's going on. You want to see maybe who their involved community partners are involved with. You might want to look at their mission statement, their values. I even say, look at the interviewer. Sometimes you'll know who's interviewing you. So look at them in LinkedIn, kind of see what they're interested in. Be very natural. I probably wouldn't go friend them on there, but I definitely would go ahead and get a head start to know what their interests are, what their likes. That might spark a natural conversation. Yes. Yes, and that's normal. You got to think about it like this. When you're in a setting like that, it's very normal to go look it up. I probably just wouldn't befriend them right now. Yes?
If you don't log in, they can't know who you are.
Oh, well, that's a good one. Yes.
You also can turn that off. So if you go into your settings, there is a way to make it so that way they can't see that it's you that viewed their profile.
Yay! Give a round of applause, y'all. But yeah, so just some tips and tricks that I learned along the way. Thank you for that. I'm going to remember that one. And the third R is review. This is kind of where you want to be familiar with the job description, the original post. Employers want to know that you're excited to work for them, that you understand what is expected of you in this role, and that you understand their overall mission. You want to make sure that you practice. If you have an in-person one, and I know it's been a while since we had in-person interviews, you want to make sure you know how to get there. You really don't want to show up late. And if you're on time, you're probably late. You probably want to be there at least 15 minutes prior. So that might mean planning your route out the day before, seeing if it's heavy traffic at the time that you're leaving. If it's on Zoom or if it's Virtual, you want to make sure that you have a quiet setting. You want to make sure your lighting is good. So if you got a selfie light stick, make sure it's working. You want to make sure that you're familiar with the platform they're using. It might be Zoom, it might be something else. So just making sure that all those things that you have checked and that they're working right and you're ready to go will not only make you more prepared, it will also increase your confidence going in. So I want to focus now on behavior interview questions. So the behavior interview questions are foreign questions that you can be asked during interview. Yes, you may be asked the typical questions. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Maybe give me a scenario. But for the majority time, you will have a lot of behavior interview questions. Behavior interview questions are questions that kind of ask you to tell a time when you did something. So you're kind of telling a story. And I have a really good method that almost always 99.9, because I don't like to say 100%, but about 99.9% of the time will help you formulate it so you're not rambling. And we kind of call that the STAR formula. We call that the STAR formula because each letter represents something. S stands for the situation. So as you're telling this story, you want to begin to paint the picture. I mean, you don't have to go all the way back to the date you're born, but you want to go back to kind of setting the scene of the story. T is for task. So you want to talk about what your responsibility was in that story. What were you doing? Were you a program manager? Were you an event intern? You want to think about the action. I like to think of this like the problem and what did you do to solve the problem? And then the R is the outcome or the result. So an example would be you're an events intern and you are for a meeting for a venue. So you are the person that they come to when they need to schedule a meeting. So the task is at the last minute, there was a RSVP and you didn't have enough seats, but you couldn't tell them no. So now you need to figure out how to create a new seating chart and where's everyone's going to sit. So the action was you worked with the caterer to move the buffet, to create an extra table, to have new space. The results were that all attendees had an appropriate place to sit, they can see the screen, and the event was successful. So it's very easy to formulate a story when you're thinking about STAR. All right, so what I want us to do is kind of practice using that formula. There is 4 different scenarios I have. You can pick one scenario and work with a partner, take turns, answering that scenario with an experience that you had, or maybe an experience you see yourself having, using the STAR formula. So I'll give you some time to do that, and I'll walk around to see how everyone's doing. Okay, if I can have everyone's attention. Y'all get quiet so fast, thank you. So did y'all have an opportunity to practice STAR method with at least 1 or 2 of these scenarios? Some of y'all made your own, that's awesome. I wanted to really just give you the opportunity to practice using STAR, whatever scenario that you did. How was it? Did somebody want a microphone? How was it practicing STAR? And if you don't have to share, if you don't want to share. Okay, so we kind of talked about the behavior questions. They might ask you about your strengths or your areas of growth, but I really want to take a moment to focus on the tell me about yourself. One of the things that we do in our offices is we do mock interviews. And a lot of times when people get to this question, they struggle how to answer it. They either give way too much information, not enough information, or it's focused on solely career-driven information. I think there's a balance when you're answering this question. There isn't a necessarily wrong way to answer it. I think there's just a better way of answering it. So I think it's easy to understand and formulate your answer when you think about what the purpose of this question is. Honestly, the purpose of this question is to break the ice. People who are interviewing you understand that this is a stressful time. It can be you can be very anxious, have some nerves about it. So they really just want to kind of break that ice to calm your nerves. It's a friendly way of starting the process. A second thing is kind of like to get to know the applicant. I have interviewed people, and I think I interviewed maybe 25 people for one position. It's a lot of people. So when you start telling me about yourself, that's something that stands out, that's unique about you, so I can remember you, so they can remember you. And that kind of ties into being a rememberable applicant. You should hear a little bit of your background. You should know about your personal goals, but they really just want to get to know you. They want to be able to imagine you working in their company, on their team, with the people that work there now. So how should I answer? So I think there's like 3 steps that you should think of when you're answering this question. Background information. So you do want to tell a little bit about you. When I started, I told you how I was military and I went to A&M and I got booed. But then I went to UMHB and it was like, okay. So you do want to give a little bit of background information. Tell me a little bit about your relative skills and your qualifications and your excitement about this position. It should be natural. You can make it fun. Just kind of be yourself. If you have a cool hobby or something that you want to share, this is a good place to share. I always tell people, share whatever you feel comfortable with. If that's something you're not comfortable with sharing, it's okay not to share. So those are some things that you can do to kind of help formulate your response. Okay. And I really want to spend some time on the any questions. As we were talking earlier, a lot of you mentioned that, one thing that'll help me prepare is thinking about what questions that I'm going to ask the interviewer. That's awesome. That's amazing. I have sat in interviews where I'm like, do you have any questions? And they're like, nope. I'm like, you sure? They're like, yeah, nope. So when I think of that, I'm like, are they interested? They didn't ask about my company, how the culture is. Can they really see themselves working here? So those are some of the things that are going through an employer's mind when you kind of don't bring in questions. I think this is a very important part of the process that sometimes gets overlooked. I think it's important not just to demonstrate to the employer that you're interested, but I think this is a way for you to gain knowledge and skill. When you are sitting down to do your internships, when you're looking for jobs, you're probably not applying to just one. It might be neck and neck between 2 or 3 organizations. Think about what information you need for that number 3 to be number 1, or what's a deal breaker for you. So this is a great opportunity for you to get to know the employer. Did I see someone's hand up, or were you just stretching? And you're just stretching, no worries. So again, I kind of want to reiterate the purpose of it. It demonstrates your understanding of the role. It provides the applicant with information. It shows off your research. What do you need to know about this company? And your interest, your portrayed interest into this. And I wanted to give some examples of some questions that might be helpful. What does a successful day look like in this role? What does training and professional development look like? Yes.
What do you mean by the background information? Like, what should I say?
So you can talk about maybe your hometown, where you're from. You going to UT, maybe you have brothers and sisters and you're the oldest. What's something about your background that's unique to you that might make you stand out to an employer? Yes. And I'm sorry, I didn't see hands raised. I apologize.
What are some ways you can talk about your background without rambling for too long, because I feel like it's hard for me to be concise sometimes when I'm talking about certain things, because I feel like I have to talk for a certain amount of time. So how can you like stop yourself from rambling for too long?
Here's some tips. Like sometimes I practice that question because it's a question that's going to be asked in many, many interviews. So it is totally okay to have one question one response and just tweaking it just slightly for like the position that you're applying for. 2, when you're practicing it, time yourself. You probably shouldn't be talking any more than I think a minute is pushing it, because this is just meant to break the ice. 3, you can always schedule an appointment with us or your career service office to do a mock interview, and we can definitely work on that too. So I hope that answered your question. Any other questions about to tell me about yourself? I'm sorry, I did not mean to overpass that because that is a hard question.
How do you go about spinning like plain hard facts about yourself into a compelling story or something that might be like humorous or relatable for them?
Give me an example.
Like that's my problem. I'm having a hard time coming up with like examples when I'm going with the thought process of like, oh, it's facts about myself. It doesn't really sound like I'm engaging with them.
So a fun fact, but being authentic is what you're asking. Kinda?
Yes. I guess, how do you make the facts fun?
Yeah. I think what makes them fun is what makes them unique, and just being yourself. You know, a fun fact about me is I don't like to cook, but I'm a good cook. That might not necessarily seem like something interesting to me, but that might make me stand out to the employer. This lady don't like to cook, but she's good. I need to see this. So just something that is you. It doesn't have to be something like I like skydiving. Did that help? Okay. Yes, there's a gentleman over there. And there goes the rain. I got my rain boots, y'all. Yes.
With the any questions last slide, how do you come up with questions to ask? Because I've been in interviews before where I just couldn't think of anything in the moment. Like, how do I come up with something without taking too long to think of something?
Yes. So I think it's really good that you have your questions way in advance so you already know. So one thing that like when you have an interview, it is okay to have your resume. It is okay to have like a pad portfolio. It's okay to have those questions written down. What helps me come up with those questions is I do research. So I think it's something that stood out to me about their organization and I want to know more. I will also think of, again, like maybe their professional development is something important to me. So how are you investing? How can I be successful in this team? Another question I usually like to ask is, at the end, I might ask them, was I clear enough? Was there any other information that I didn't get an opportunity to express to you that you want to know? Because I really want to make sure that I've answered all their questions and I've understood it. So really think about that. But also, like, what do you want to know? You know, you should figure that out as you're doing research. But that was a good question. Thank you. Did that answer it? Okay. Yes, there's a question over here, too. I think so. Okay. So they can hear you in TV land. Oh, I don't know.
So let's say the interview asks you a question and you're not necessarily sure how to answer, so you need some time to think. What can you tell them before just kind of going into awkward silence? Like, can you ask, like, oh, I need to think about this? Or how do you go about that situation?
Definitely. I would ask, like, oh, I need a moment. Or it's okay to have an awkward silence. I think it's us that think it's awkward, but it's totally normal to not speak right away and to give that person space to process their thoughts. It happens many times. It's also okay if you get asked a question and you don't understand. It's okay to ask, can they elaborate? Can they explain? It's better to ask than answer it the wrong way. You're welcome. Any other questions? No, so those are some examples that I was talking about of some questions that you can formulate. And some of this we kind of talked about, but I wanted to leave like some just final tips and tricks and reminders. Take your time with the way you respond. We were just kind of talking about it. You can have a natural pause. You can ask for a moment to collect your thoughts. You can just be quiet and think. It's okay. They'll wait. Make eye contact. Thank the interviewer. So many times I've seen it where people have done an interview and they just walked out. Make sure you thank the interviewer, but also follow up with a thank you email. It's so important within those first 24 hours after your interview to go ahead and send a thank you up email. It shows that you are considerate, it shows that you care, and that you're eager and interested in this position. Making sure that your email is appropriate, which you should have done that during your resume. Making sure that you check your email often. A lot of times, you may not get a phone call, you might get an email. So making sure you're checking your spam too, because they may email you for an interview and you may miss that opportunity. And give yourself grace. This is a process. I probably sucked the first time I did my interview. Each time it gets better, better, and better. And then one thing I haven't quite mentioned through this thing, kind of like your dress code, so making sure that you're dressing your best for success. That might look different in different industries. I am old-fashioned, so I'm probably going to say business casual to business professional. But I also understand that different industries are different. So making sure that you are neat and you are clean, making sure that you don't have any holes or rips. And like a quick story, my son, when my oldest son is 21, when he was 16, he had his first job interview, and he was so excited. It was at Burger King. And I was like, ooh, what are you gonna wear? So he comes down in this like holy t-shirt, these holy jeans, and he's like, I'm gonna wear this. And I'm like, yeah, no, you can't wear that. So I went, trying to be the good mom I am, I bought some khakis, got him a polo. We got him there 15 minutes early. He was at the wrong Burger King. But the moral of the story is, because he actually looked presentable, because he had khakis, they were very amazed that a high school student took that opportunity for a fast food restaurant. They gave him an interview and a job on the spot. So I say all that to say, it's your best impression. You want to put that effort. And don't be late. Don't be late. Make sure you know where you're going. And then I want to talk about a few resources that might help you through this process. So we have an online platform called Big Interview, where you can kind of practice interviewing at the comfort of your dorm room. LinkedIn Learning is a good way to look at some interview techniques. And you can always schedule an appointment with us or your home career service office. And then last but not least, if you could take the survey for us and remember that we are available. The amazing thing about UT is you have 2 career service offices. You have your school and you have us. We don't just do interviews, we do resumes, we do career and major exploration, many different things. So that is my presentation. Thank you for sticking with me. You have one more to go. Awesome.
So much for your attention thus far. We cannot be more grateful for you all to be here today and to see so many career development presentations before you've even had your first day of class here. So give a round of applause to yourself. Thank you guys so much for being here. All right, and my name is Daphne Wolfe. I'm a career counselor with Texas Career Engagement. So I started here at UT back in February, but I've been working in career services for the last 2 years. I did my undergrad at, I know you're gonna be mad, Texas A&M. UT pays the bills now. All right. And I got my Master's of Education in College Student Affairs Administration at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs! Me and Allie. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about networking. And I'm so excited that y'all have seen so many of these presentations already, and you're going to probably see more similar presentations throughout your time here at UT, but I hope in each time you see a resume presentation, a networking presentation, an interviewing presentation, you're able to, take it in the context that you need right now. Right? Maybe if you're just entering UT or a first year here, welcome. Maybe your first thing that you're going to be interviewing for is a student organization or an on-campus work-study job, right? But maybe in the next year or two, you're going to transition to look for internships, right? And so each, interviewing and networking and building out your resume is going to look very different at all these different stages. So I hope that you've been able to take something from each one of these. And speaking of what I hope you to learn in my presentation, right, is the value of networking. We're going to review a few resources like LinkedIn and Hooked-In. And then I hope that you're able to develop a list of 1 to 3 potential contacts, which does mean that I'm asking you to engage with other people. Right? Trigger warning. So we're going to start out with building connections, right? Or why is networking important and what even is it, right? So it's just building connections, creating mutually beneficial connections, and also recognizing that it does take time, right? So when you're building these connections, it's not with the potential interest of, man, I think this guy is gonna be able to get me an internship. I should really, I should sit next to him at lunch today. It's not that I think this guy is gonna, or this person's gonna help me get into the program that I want. It's just genuinely building relationships out of genuine curiosity, right? How many times, or think about like the best friend that you've had for many, many years, right? Potentially your whole life. What did you probably build that relationship on? Does anybody wanna? Honesty. Okay, that's a great quality. But I don't know about you, but I met my best friend from school in kindergarten, and so we played at the sandbox together, So, and that wasn't, I didn't think that she would be an awesome researcher getting her PhD down the street at Texas State. That wasn't the reason why I was friends with her. It wasn't her career ambitions. It was that she was at the sandbox at the same time I was, right? So developing connections is just as genuine as that, and it can start out as friendships, but you do want them to be mutually beneficial, right? You don't want to be in a one-sided friendship, and you don't want to be in a one-sided relationship, and you also don't want to be in a one-sided mentorship situation either, right? And so doing those things, building a genuine connection, finding things that you have in common does take time, right? It doesn't happen at one lunch. It doesn't happen after one presentation. It doesn't happen after one class, right? You've got to be consistent. You've got to show up, and you have to make an effort to connect in multiple ways, right? Maybe it's going to class. Maybe it's getting their contact information, their social media handle, right? It might just mean showing up to class again, sitting next to them, offering them to study together, right? Putting in a little bit extra at work, right? So I do want to hear from you all, and if I could get a little mic runner for me. I want to hear, because networking often makes people a little uncomfortable. Can I get a raise of hands of how many people feel uncomfortable when we're networking? When you hear the word networking? Yeah, totally, right? It's kind of nerve-wracking. But I want to hear a little bit, why does it make you nervous? If you could raise your hand so that we can, if you're a brave soul right here. Awesome, or in the back, awesome.
Testing. There we go.
Yeah.
For me personally, I feel like when I hear the word networking, or I hear like my dad say, "Hey, you need to start networking" and all that, I'm thinking, ugh. I feel like I'm obligated to do that because I know that as I'm getting older, I'm a third year, and before you know, I'm going to be pursuing a career in accounting and all that. I know that I'm going to have to be networking with a bunch of people, but I feel like I don't want to be forcing it. I want it to become a natural occurrence. Like, oh, I meet you, I get to see you more often. We kind of build like a friendship then it becomes a business relationship.
Right.
I don't want to force it. So that's like the one thing that makes me feel like, ugh, networking.
Yeah, like the obligation of it, and like sometimes that, I think what I'm hearing from you is like that environment piece of like it being so forced, right? It's like we're going to a mixer and like nobody knows each other and it's super uncomfy. Ooh, right? Cool. Anyone else I want to share? Got up here? Got two? Thank you so much for sharing, y'all. It's really appreciated.
When I think of the word networking, I think of like old men in fancy suits, and I don't think of like people my age, and it's not very approachable to me.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, sometimes that word can feel a little antiquated, right? Sometimes we think of some generational. I've got one more gentleman right here. He's had his hand up for a minute. Thank you for sharing that. And that's such a great thing too, is showing up and networking in a way that's authentic to yourself, right? And hopefully we get to an activity a little bit later, that's gonna help us with that. Sorry, what's yours?
Sometimes when I'm purposefully networking, I feel like I get scared that it could come off as ingenuine. So like I get worried that they would feel that I'm just using them to get somewhere.
Totally. That is, I think, probably the biggest feeling of like, ooh, this just really feels inauthentic, right? Feels like I'm here for a purpose, I have an agenda, and sometimes you do have an agenda, and that's okay, but right? Remember, mutually beneficial, right? It's not that you can provide them maybe the equivalent, right? If this person has the opportunity to offer you a job or an opportunity, maybe you're not going to be in the position to have a job or an opportunity to offer them later on, right? But what you could offer them is your insight, your generational knowledge, your insight, your work ethic, all those things that you bring to the table, you also bring to those networking situations too, right? Sorry, we have a question up here? Comment?
I guess like when I look at networking.
One more second.
I guess when I look at networking, I look at like, yeah, they're older, but at the same time, they're farther in life than what I am, and they're able to provide guidance and like help you out with. They know a lot more people because they're farther in life farther along in life. So you make one network, at least they know 2 people. Those 2 people know 4 people. Those 4 people know 6 people, and it just kind of trickles down the line because they're talking about what an awesome student you are, what an awesome person you are, just for doing one action for one person, whether that be volunteering for like an organization or their foundation.
Absolutely, absolutely. That reputational knowledge that you get from that person and that they get to spread about you, absolutely, it goes down the line as super beneficial. And I love that you're, identifying typically the people that, you network with may be older than you, but in the next few slides, we are going to identify who our network is, right? And so those things might surprise you. So why is networking important? I think we've already kind of touched on some of these things, but when you are job seeking, up to 70% of applicants find their job through their network, right? So that means the majority of people who got the job that they're currently at knew somebody at the organization or had some kind of influence in this, right? And then additionally, up to 80% of all job opportunities, are not published, right? That means that they happen because they knew someone, that they met somebody and had a good experience with them, and that they offered them, hey, we have this role that's open and it may suit your needs. Would you be interested in having a deeper conversation about it, right? That's sometimes a lot easier than posting it on LinkedIn, posting it to your network, posting it on, X website, Indeed, right? It's a lot cheaper too, I'm not gonna lie, for employers. And then lastly, professional relationships. They provide support, connection, and then mentorship, which I think we've all touched on already. All right, so getting back to this question that we brought up over here. Sometimes the people that we network with are older than us, right? But I do want to also say that sometimes they are a little bit more casual of relationships than you may think. So thinking through who is your network, your family. That's your first primary network a lot of the time, right? If you've had part-time jobs, the people that you've known through that part-time job. How many people have had a job in the past? Part-time, awesome. Cool. Yeah, great. How many of those jobs interacted with people or clients or food, you're working in food service or retail? Yeah, me too. Yeah, awesome. So that's a great way to meet people, right? When you're actively working with people and new clients and your coworkers, right? I worked at Starbucks as a barista while I was in college, and I met some really awesome people who were my customers, and they were my regulars. And when I started applying to internships and stuff, they started to check in on me, right? And they started to be like, hey, can I help you in any way? Because you give me my coffee every day, and I really love that, right? And I was like, I would love it if you could connect me with X, Y, and Z, right? And so think about those are really, really like places that people take for granted that you do have a network there, right? Think about your volunteer work. If you go and volunteer every week, or your student organizations, right? You are networking with not only the people that are in that organization because you have some sort of shared interest, right? But maybe you're also getting connected with professionals. Maybe they'll come to your organization and do a speech or a panel, right? Making sure that you're connecting with them, following them on LinkedIn, connecting with them through their organization, anything like that, right? But also thinking about your student organization advisors, right? If you have a graduate student or a advisor that oversees that student organization, that's a great person to get in contact with. I was one of those while I was in grad programs and in undergrad, and it was so fun, and I love to stay connected with my students. All of them are doing super awesome things in tech and have really great experiences, right? And so it's fun to connect with them. Some of them are living here in Austin too, which is awesome. Thinking about your friends and acquaintances, right? So the people that you sit next to in classes, again, shared interest. You're already in the same classes. And then your faculty and staff too. So anyone who has taught in front of a class did it because, one, they really like their subject matter, but two, they wanted to help people, and they wanted to help people learn, right? And so that's a huge thing that I don't want you to take for granted when you're thinking about who you could network with. And I see a lot of students that want to become professors, and they come here and they go, but I don't really know what a professor does outside of teach their class. And I say, well, why don't you stay after class and talk to one? And you have 5 right now, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, that's super accessible for you, right? It will never be more accessible for you than this time here at UT, right? But I wanted to hear from y'all. Is there anyone else who you could consider to be in your network that I haven't already touched on? Family, yeah, absolutely. Coaches, yeah, great job. I heard RAs over here, absolutely. 100% shout out to RAs, you do great work. Anyone else? Neighbors, absolutely, good job, good job. Another one I wanna mention, has anybody met anyone through social media? Yeah, right? And you haven't ever met them in person, but they like all your stuff, they share you great things, right? I've got great Twitter relationships with people I have never met before because we both talked about higher ed stuff for a while. So think about how you can leverage your social media to also find and expand your network too. All right, so growing your network. So I want to give you 2 tangible tools that you can utilize within your first year here at UT. First one is Hooked-In. The second one is LinkedIn. I'm going to give you a brief overview of each one. I'm not going to tell you how to set up your profiles on each one, but I can give you some tips and tricks of where to find those resources. So the first one is the LinkedIn Alumni tool. So while you're here at UT, there are 300,000 and more active living alumni here, right, from the University of Texas. And so how would you be able to get in contact with them? So the LinkedIn Alumni tool is a great way to do that. So once you get your LinkedIn profile, show of hands, how many people have a LinkedIn profile already? Professionals, budding professionals, wow. So if you already have your LinkedIn profile already made, or if you are making your LinkedIn profile, I want you to go and follow the University of Texas at Austin. This is a great way to keep up with your alma mater eventually when you graduate from the 40 acres, but it's also a great way to just keep in touch with your current alumni too. So in here, I've got the home button, I've got the my employer, about, posts, jobs, and then we're gonna go to that alumni tab. And here you can actually utilize the search feature here and search by job titles, keywords, degrees that they've earned, anything that you want and are curious about. You can see where those alumni from University of Texas, where they live, where they work, and then you can actually connect with them and find out a little bit more about their experience. So sorry, guys. I don't know why this keeps cutting out. So this is a great tool to be able to connect with alumni. And I will show you in a few slides kind of a script that you can use when you do connect with them, because you don't want to just reach out to a rando on LinkedIn, right? It's what we call a cold email or a cold DM, right? So the more you can bring your commonalities into that conversation, the more you can be specific about what you're asking for, the better that conversation is going to go. So Hooked In, does that sound familiar to anything? What could that be? Right? Hooked In is very similar to LinkedIn, but it is exclusively for the University of Texas alumni and community members. I like to highlight this about this service because it is super awesome that alumni have to elect, they have to actively sign up to be a part of this. They have to make a profile, they have to connect it with their LinkedIn, they have to say what they were involved in while they were here at UT and give them, they have so many prompts that they have to fill out, right? And so we have so many alumni who want to be here and they want to help you, right? Hooked In was designed to be a mentorship platform where current students, and this was designed during COVID, so it was so good that current students could still connect with alumni, even though their student meetings and student organizations may be looking very differently or their classes were looking differently. Texas Exes wanted students to be able to connect with alumni easier. And so this mentorship platform was born. And so here you can do the exact same thing you were doing in the alumni tool from LinkedIn. Use those same keywords, use those same filters, look for educational titles, look for job titles, and really see, I love this, especially if you're looking at thinking about doing a different job than maybe your major. It's not gonna be a linear career path for you. Seeing, okay, what are other people with government majors doing, right? Are all of them becoming politicians? No, surely not, right? Some of them are going off to grad school. Some of them may be working in business, right? How did they get there, right? So Hooked In is a great tool to be able to connect with your alumni and see, okay, oh my gosh, how did you get from a government degree to being the VP of marketing at a startup company, right? Please tell me more, right? That's super intriguing. So, here's a great way that you can ask them those questions and really connect with them. So, and when I'm saying you can ask them those questions and connect with them, that's through what we actually call an informational interview. How many of you have heard of what an informational interview is? Handful, cool, okay, great. So this is actually a meeting to learn about the real life experience of someone working in a field or company that interests you. And so this can look a lot of different ways. If you want to reach out to somebody via Hooked In, LinkedIn, social media, right? And say, ask them to get coffee. You can ask them, tell me a little bit about your day-to-day responsibilities in your job. Tell me about the skills that you developed while you were in this job, but also which skills did you feel like you had right out of college that helped you get into this industry or this field, right? So this is a great way, as we were talking about, to slowly but surely, build a solid relationship with somebody and learn more about their life, but also lead to another recommendation. Every time I recommend a student talk to an alumni, a faculty member, an advisor, a family friend, right? Anyone a part of your network, I always recommend that the last thing that they ask them in that informational interview is there anyone else that you think would be good that I talk to about this kind of industry or this kind of work? Right? Because that's slowly building out that web that we were talking about earlier, right? Any questions on informational interviews? I want to make sure I'm not breezing through this. Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask, like, is this something that we should do as a one-time thing, or if we should continue so that we can maintain that network and we're not somebody that they would like forget about, or we'd only reach out to like if we need their help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the question asking is, is this a one-time thing, or should I keep meeting with this person regularly? So informational interviews are a great place where you could start building the relationship for like a mentorship or a mentor, right? Where you might meet with them periodically, get coffee, check in, right? But this also could be a kind of a one-time exploration thing too. If you're saying, I might want to change my major to finance, so I'm gonna go talk to this person who is a finance executive, he's a financial analyst. I want to hear a little bit more about his experience. And you talk to him, you express your gratitude for the conversation and the time that he's given for you. But you also maybe share or maybe make the decision after that, hey, I don't think I'm gonna work in finance, right? That's totally okay to not maintain or not meet up with them again. But it's good to, keep them in your network, right? Because if they had a good conversation with you, if they liked you, if they, felt that it was a genuine conversation, they will probably want you to succeed at whatever you choose to do, right? So if they see you on LinkedIn and that you've gotten a new internship in a nonprofit organization, probably is going to be like, hey, great job. Hope that works out for you, right? Because this is something I've learned in this job. People want to be helpful. If they can offer help, they really genuinely want to, especially to college students. You only have 4 years to use that line, I'm a college student, please help me. Please use it, right? Good question. Did that answer it? Okay, great. Any other questions? Cool. So I want to give you a few tips on how to reach out effectively. So these 3 things: why are you reaching out? Why are they a good person to learn from? And what are you asking for, right? These are good 3 things to cover in the email, in the LinkedIn message that you're going to send to a person that you want to meet with, right? And here's a quick example of this. Hello, my name is Daphne, and I'm a sophomore sociology major at UT Austin. I'm currently interested in learning more about the field of instructional design. I would love to hear about your journey to the field, as well as any advice you have for someone considering it as a future career option. Do you have any time in the next few weeks for a 15-minute conversation via Zoom? I appreciate your time and look forward to hearing from you soon. Right? There's a few things I want to highlight from this, right? They gave me exactly what I'm supposed to give as an alumni, right? They need 15 minutes of my time, and they want to talk about my experience and how I got into instructional design, right? So I have no problem as an alumni of this university to say, you know what, everyone else who emails me and calls me is asking me for money. I'd love to give you 15 minutes of my expertise, right? And so that's awesome. That's always a great way to reach out to them, because you're not asking them for much but their time. Cool. All right. How are we feeling? Feel good? Cool. The rain has kind of like mellowed everybody out. It's really nice. All right, but I'm about to ask y'all to get a little rowdy. So we're gonna do a little activity where I'm gonna ask y'all to meet 3 new people. 3 new people, and I know y'all have kind of grouped up. I've been watching, I see y'all have your groups and your friends already, I know. But I want you to meet 3 new people. Hey, hold on. So I want you to do a few things when you have this conversation. I want you to introduce yourself. I want them to know your hometown, your major, anything that you feel like is most importantly, your name, obviously. And do a quick intro of yourself, and then I want you to play this little Ask Me game, right? I want you to ask your partner one of these questions that's up here. What's your favorite hobby? What is your favorite store? Where's your favorite place to go on vacation? All of those are great things to start this little networking journey. So I'm gonna give you about 10-ish minutes to meet 3 people. Sound good? All right, and break. Thank you all. And we are all going to be making it back to our seats in 10, 9, 8, 7. Ooh, I see you moving. That got you moving. All right. Okay, how did that go for y'all? You see some thumbs up? Yeah? Giggle? I'm just kidding. I saw some awesome things happening with y'all. How many of you met somebody that you did not know before this conference? Yeah? Awesome, love that. How many of you got somebody's social media or contact information? Yes, look at you all. I didn't even ask y'all to do that, and you knew to do it already. That's so great. So this is a big part of college, is like networking with your peers and your colleagues, right? These are the people you're gonna spend the next 4 years with. They could be in some of your classes, they could be in some of your organizations. So making sure that you're connecting in the spaces that you're currently present in, right? You're about to live in this res hall for the next year, right? At least. Make sure that you make it your own and you utilize that network you have that's built into it, right? Go to the programs, go to the events here, make a new friend at each one of them. Make sure to include somebody, right? Include a new friend. So these are great things. Any questions from your little networking activity before we move on? Cool. All right. So last two things. We are going to plug a few more resources from our office, right? And the last presentation survey. If you could let me know how I did today, that would be lovely. But the last resource I do want to let you know about is our career communities. So a lot of you are first-year students. How many of you are, really considering potentially changing your major at some point? I got a rapid hand up over here. He's proud of it, right? Absolutely. So I do want to normalize changing your major, or making a major choice, right? About 66% of students that come to UT change their major, right? I want to say that is super normal. So that's a big thing that our office does, but it is also very common that you go into a different career than maybe what you get your undergraduate degree in, right? So my undergraduate degree is in political science. I'm a career counselor. I do this for my job, right? How did I get there? So just to say, sometimes your career path is not linear, right? You can go to a lot of different things. And so that's exactly why we designed these career communities right here, where you can access from our website. So if you're interested, you're a sociology major, and you're like, but I do want to work in business, but I just like to know how people interact in society, right? That's super valuable, especially if you work in something like very client-facing or sales-driven, right? So our career communities are such a great place to go for that. And I also want to highlight, I don't have it up here, but I want to let you know you're about to receive some more information about it from a variety of places, is our Exploration Celebration. So our office is hosting this. It'll be in our space, which is in FAC 2.236, the second floor of FAC, right in the shadow of the tower. And so what we're doing at the Exploration Celebration is truly, giving you all the tools and the resources to help you explore your interest areas, whether that be a major, a different career path, and everything in between, right? So come check it out. We're gonna have some sweet treats. It's from 12 to 2 on September 22nd. I know that's really far away from now, but it's gonna come up faster than you think. So just again, pleased to highlight our presentation survey, but that is all I have for you today. And thank you so much for your attention and participation, and welcome to UT.